Well, here we are in the 1611 museum. We call it a King James Museum, dedicated to the 1611 Bible. And this room here is kind of like the people's room. It's the outer court. So just as the Tabernacle had the outer court, the holy place, and the most holy place, this museum is laid out in that framework. And so we have a mixture. We have a pre-Revolutionary War Bible here with the Book of Common Prayer. It's a beautiful piece here, and I think of the many sermons that have been preached out of this Bible. This is the Book of Common Prayer that was common in the old Bibles, deal for the bishops, the priests, and the deacons. And then we have all kinds of things that here, the communion and so forth, visitation of the sick, the Psalms, and then of course we get into, later we get into the Bible, Genesis and so forth, 17, 22, thereabouts, and beautiful little piece here. So we'll be looking at more Bibles as we go through here. We have some furniture from the castle in Europe. It's kind of cool, and some things from the Creation Evidence Museum, and we have an airplane up here. We just kind of a lot of fun things. Here we have some theological books, and we have some stuff that's 800-900 years old, handwritten manuscript.
Howard, talk a little bit about some of these theological books. Pick out a couple and tell us about them.
Well, this is one here that is a critical inquiry into the various editions of the Bible. It talks about all the different books and Bibles that have been written over the years. This was written in 1684. So that's an interesting piece there. Here's another one here that's a Laud and Fisher. It's just a theological treatise, relation to the Conference of William Laud and the bishops and so forth. Bishop of Canterbury
and also pointing to the King James there.
Right. And the Majesty of the King James. But there's a lot of cool things. Here's an interesting piece on a boat that went over Niagara Falls. I totaled that off personally. This is a interesting 1607 New Testament. And it still has the, you can see in places here, if we can find a place, it still has the pins. I don't know if you can see them. When they bind the books, there's a pin right there. And it still has, but anyway, it's a New Testament, early New Testament with a lot of notes and stuff in there. 1607, that would be.
Who do you think produced those?
Well, this would be a Geneva Bible. This was by Robert Barker. And here's a nice little inquiry into four remarkable texts with Jonathan Edwards, and early American preacher. That's a rare piece there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things over here. Here's Noah Webster blueback spellers. Some from the 1700s, some from the 1800s. This one is 1809, and teaching young people how to spell and how to have character. So that's interesting. There's on the gunpowder plot. They're trying to blow up King James, trying to blow up and destroy the Parliament then, and get rid of the King James 1611 Bible. There's a lot of history here. Here's an interesting book concerning God's directories. I think I don't know what this is about. Epistle Dedicatory. Some notes on God's decrees. So there's a lot of interesting. This is 1671. So there's some pretty rare things here. These are some samples of pages of Bibles that were printed in America, from the American Bible collection, the Zinman collection, and we have some on the other side. This is a study of the ampersand in the 1611 Bible. The 1611 Bible is the main Bible with the ampersand. It's the 27th letter of the English alphabet. Most people think there's only 26 letters in the English alphabet, but there's 27. The ampersand is not an and sign that everybody thinks it is, but it's an and per se and per se and. And the per se means something by itself. And it's kind of like a billboard on the freeway. You're driving down the freeway and you've seen some various events or things or places or speed limit signs, and a sign comes up that tells you you travel such and such a speed, or such and such a building or restaurant or something is down the road. So when you're in the scripture and you're reading, you see an ampersand, it's telling you, it's like a freeway sign telling you something important is ahead. You've seen something important before, but now something probably equally as important or more important is coming behind. And here's some examples. Revelation 22:3, there shall be no more curse, but the throne of God ampersand. Now this is a very important statement, but look what follows. Of the Lamb shall be in it, and his servants shall serve him. So that's important. In the beginning was the word ampersand. That's a very important statement. But now the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That's a very powerful verse, John 1:1. John 1:14, the Word was made flesh, dwelt among us, ampersand. And we beheld his glory as the glory of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. So there's, all through the 1611 Bible, you have this concept of the ampersand. Very important. Here we have some Gutenberg facsimiles. This was considered the first Bible first book that was printed. And this is the Mons copy. From Sorbonne University in the country of France. They produced this, and we were able to obtain the remaining copies of this in this country and distribute them and so forth. But this is...
Why was that written?
Pardon?
Why was that one written?
Well, this is the Latin Bible. This is the first Bible that was printed, and it has a real colorful story. A lot of people think Gutenberg is the one that is credited with printing and developing the printing press, but there seems to be evidence that a fellow named, let's see, what was his name? Laurentus was a gentleman, a scholar, and he produced printing, the printing press, the ink, and all of those things. And John Gainflaches worked for him along with another fellow, and when he was off on a trip, they stole the type, the press, and the letters, and they traveled up eventually to Mons, Germany, and hooked up with Gutenberg Gainflaches. And Gutenberg wasn't the last name, that was the first name of one of the Gainflaches brothers. And they decided to take under this undertaking of printing the Bible, but it was so huge, and so they connected with the banker named Faustus, and Faustus figured that they'd go broke, and they did go broke. So Faustus said, if I'm gonna loan you money, you're gonna have to train this guy named Schopenhauer, who later became his son-in-law, to the banker. And that way the banker was able to take over after they went bankrupt, and took over the process of the Gutenberg Bible and the ownership of everything. And you had stolen types, stolen books, stolen everything, because they took from Antioch and they brought it down to Egypt. That was earlier when they corrupted the manuscripts, and then they took those corrupted manuscripts and decided to put it into a book. And God often allows people to take and perfect something, the world, because sometimes the world is wiser than the children of men. And so after the Gutenberg they learned how to print, because they did a beautiful job of printing. You can see this is a copy of the Verlag.
It's in excellent condition.
Well,
look at the color.
Well, this is a reproduction, so that's one of the reasons. But the originals are really quite amazing. But I don't know very many people. These are sample pages of the Cooper Square done in America, which we obtained those copies too. But once they got this printing perfected, then God used it to bring the champion of all Bibles, the 1611 Bible, the most published, read, influential book in history. And I've never met a person that's read the Gutenberg. We have the like the NIV, the New American Standard, these are of that image of out of Egypt, out of this Sinaiticus, Vaticanus, and Alexander's manuscripts. But they are an interesting historical piece, but God has chosen to bless the 1611 and its offspring more than any other thing in the world. Over here.